Hello everybody, and welcome to the Thursday edition of Video Clips. And just a couple of announcements. MakeAmericansFreeAgain.com. Go to our website and register there. We're building a huge database of voters who are for choice in certain medical issues. I think you know what those are. And do enter your name in the database. And you can also get updates on lawsuits, particularly the landmark lawsuit that was filed in federal court here in Ohio on August 31st. So when you log on to MakeAmericansFreeAgain.com, the menu bar is right there, and over on the right hand side is the Ohio lawsuit. So click on that and you will see any updates. When there's something to report, we put it there. I try to report here. Nothing really new to report other than hearings and briefs and hearings and, you know, all the legal stuff that goes on, that there's just not much to report about it. But when something important happens, we'll post it there, and we'll also, of course, I'll cover it on video clips. And then recruit other people. There's another section once you get registered there that's called Take Action, and we have cards and that sort of thing. We will soon have t-shirts and other apparel. We're partnering with a great company called The Wise Jester in Ohio who is making this stuff for us, and so we'll have that all posted pretty soon. And our website is WellnessForumHealth.com. Gosh, I must be needing some rest because I don't remember the name of our website. WellnessForumHealth.com. And if you like what we're doing, buy stuff from us. That's the best way to support all this stuff that we have going on right now. So we're going to be back to data and reports from government, and I want to talk about World Health Organization, a lot of World Health Organization, Centers for Disease Control data, State of Ohio data, and then some new technology. And so we'll cover data, and then I'll tell you how some of the public officials interpret this data. So last week, we'll start with World Health Organization. Dr. Mike Ryan, he's the executive director of the World Health Organization's Health Emergencies Program, said that his best guess, he said, our best guess, that's in quotes, is that 10% of the world has been infected with COVID-19. So you might remember Monday, I was talking about, or I was telling you some highlights from articles David Katz wrote. And he makes the claim that it's not 6.5 million Americans who have been infected with COVID. It's tens of millions. So Mike Ryan, the World Health Organization, says it might even be bigger than that. They're saying 750 million people. And according to their data, 1 million people have died from COVID. Now, we can debate those numbers, and I think they probably will change, and I don't even want to go there from here, but let's just use those numbers. If we use these data, where do we end up with? It means that the implied infection fatality rate for the whole world, according to the World Health Organization, is 0.13%. So remember on Monday, or Tuesday rather, it was Tuesday, the video clips, I was talking about keeping things in, or putting things in context. What does this mean? Well, you go to the World Health Organization, or the Centers for Disease Control's website, and I'm going to tell you what the fatality rate is, according to the infection fatality rate, according to the Centers for Disease Control. So remember, the data from World Health Organization says the infection fatality rate is 0.13%. Well, for the season 2010-2011, 0.18%. So we had a worse year, but I don't remember anything closing. 2011 and 12, 0.13%. Same as this year. 2012-13, 0.13%. 2013-14, 0.13%. 2014-15, 0.17%. Significantly higher, but again, think back at that time and what was going on. 2015-16, 0.10%, mild year. 2016-17, 0.13%. 17-18, 0.14%. And 18-19, 0.10%. So the range here is 0.10% to 0.18%. For COVID, 0.13%, and if you average these all out, that's where you end up. So Typically, the infection fatality rate, which factors in the undetected cases, is as much as 10 times lower than the fatality rate of known cases, because you've got a lot of people who have symptoms in that group. And a good example is college students. According to Dr. Andrew Bostom of Brown University, who looked at 50 university systems, there were 3 hospitalizations out of 70,000 cases and no reported COVID-19 deaths on campus. So kids really don't suffer much from this, and this is another thing that Dr. Katz talked about in the article that I talked about earlier this week, is stratifying the data. Okay, what is it for people over 70 and with comorbidities versus under 70, and then looking at kids. And I'm going to talk about kids tomorrow, but we really should not be imposing a lot of restriction on kids and even college students, because there's just no evidence that it's required. Now, with that in mind, it's always important to put things in context. I want to talk about another World Health Organization expert. It's the WHO's chief scientist. All right, he said a return to pre-COVID life without social distancing or precautions like face masks may not happen until 2022. He says first a vaccine needs to be deployed, and then people need to develop immunity for communities across the world to return back to normal. This guy's name is Soumya Swaminathan, Chief Science Officer. And he says, we're looking at 2022 at least before enough people start getting the vaccine to build immunity. So for a long time to come, we have to maintain the same kinds of measures that are currently being put in place. Think about the implications of that. Even after the vaccine is first deployed, people will need to maintain social distancing, wear masks, and practice hand hygiene. About 60 to 70% of the population needs immunity before virus transmission declines significantly. We also don't know how long these vaccines will protect for, she said. That's the other big question mark. How long does immunity last? It's possible that you will need a booster. So all of a sudden now, we're talking about nothing different than the regular flu, but this is kind of a different approach moving forward. She's not the only one who says that. Our Emperor DeWine, a study of Ohio adults found that 1.5% had antibodies to COVID-19 in July. And I'll tell you about this study, which is kind of interesting. It was done by the Ohio State University and the Ohio Department of Health, who are partners in this COVID thing, going out and knocking on doors and testing people for COVID. And they do knock on doors. I read a letter a couple months ago. I had gotten it from one of our members that actually says, hi, we're going to be in your neighborhood next week, and if you're home, we'll knock on the door and you can get a test free if you want. So this particular study involves 727 adults. And out of 727 adults in a population of 11.6 million people, these people concluded that 1.5% of people have antibodies. So I won't go through all the details of the test, because just keep in mind, 727 people in July is a metric that's being used for our emperor to comment on what we're going to do in the future. And here's what he said. DeWine later commented on the study, concluded that it shows Ohio isn't anywhere near close to herd immunity, which will occur when most of the population is immune to COVID-19. This means, according to the emperor, Ohioans will have to wear masks, socially distance, and exercise other preventive measures for quite a while. Quote, as you heard from the discussion that Lieutenant Governor Husted had and the study he presented today, we're not going to get that without the vaccine. We're not going to work our way into this for years, so what we have to do is hang in there. Keep this virus low. We'll keep our foot on its neck and wait. And when we wait for the vaccine to hit, and when it gets here and the first people start getting the shots, we've got to encourage everybody to get one that can. And I just got a hold of a letter that was sent out to state employees that if you work for the state of Ohio and you get a flu vaccine, you get a $75 bonus, and your spouse or significant other can get an additional $25. So the tax money, I don't know where the money's coming from, but it's interesting that this amount of money, up to $100 per household, is being given as an incentive to get the vaccine. So Mr. Emperor himself goes on and says, as with coronavirus testing in the beginning of the pandemic, vaccines will be scarce in the beginning and only given to the most vulnerable people, such as nursing home residents and first responders. It's going to take a while to get this out, DeWine said. When we've got a significant segment of the population, and I don't know what that segment is, but a significant segment that have immunity, if this does in fact work the way we hope it will, that's when we see the end of this. And he actually, in his talk, says that this will continue for years. What an interesting transition. We built all this excess hospital capacity, spending almost $1 billion to do it all over the country. It's still emergency, but they took it all down. And we were going to do that to flatten the curve. Stay home and have the excess capacity there just in case. We never used it, and we all stayed home like we were told. And then we were told we have to stop the spread. And now we're told it's just a permanent state of affairs. And I want you to think about that. Now I'll give you one more thing to think about. Local shops in Thailand, by the way. This guy's talking about going into a shop in Thailand. I don't know why I keep confusing those two things. In 2 seconds, scans my temperature to see if I'm wearing a mask. Doors don't open if not. 3 cases in 100 days here. Removes the awkward mask arguments for staff as well. This is a tweet by somebody who lives there. The system resembles something you'd see as part of airport security. The customer walks up to a screen which displays the word face detector. The system then scans to check if the customer is wearing a mask before allowing them to pass through a barrier. Many of the respondents in the Twitter thread supported the idea, but others warned that this was another example of how people are being forced to accept the new normal. I wish people would stop championing and normalizing the nonsense, commented one user. We'll never get back to 2019 normal if we continue down this road. Another respondent pointed out that a similar system was also being used in Scotland. It could also be used to enforce a myriad of other restrictions, such as forcing people to face scan before they use the internet, already being introduced in China, and refusing access if their social credit score has dropped. China has already combined its COVID-19 track and trace system with the communist country's social credit score program. In August 2019, the communist state bragged about how it had prevented 2.5 million discredited entities from purchasing plane tickets and 90,000 people from buying high-speed train tickets in the month of July alone. So I thought that this was an interesting set of data to share with you. The World Health Organization's Executive Director of Emergencies Program, Health Emergencies Program, the Chief Scientist, and what she had to say, what a governor has to say, and what it looks like is going on, what this is all morphing into. So think long and hard about this transition and what I'm talking about. It's very, very, very concerning to me. And it's the thing that makes me get up in the morning and work very, very hard to amass the voter base, makeamericans.freeagain.com, free our people, the lawsuit, go to makeamericans.freeagain.com, register, and then check out our lawsuit. Put out information like this every day. And by the way, in the newsletter is where we put the really dicey stuff, so make sure that you're a subscriber to the newsletter, because I can say a lot of things there that I don't say here. And so everything I'm doing is motivated by reading stuff like this every single day. All right, that's it for today. As usual, pass this on to anybody who you think would enjoy watching it and learning more about this, and I'll be back to you tomorrow with more news.